Hello, everyone. Hope everybody is having a blessed day. I'm keeping everybody in my prayers, and I hope that you guys are keeping me in your prayers as well. Today, I am going to just share some of my beliefs and some of my views in regards to what's going on, or what I feel in regards to the whole situation and concerns that are surrounding the police officers, as well as citizens and police officers. But first, here we go. Let me get my scriptures out of the way. My scriptures, and this is, I should have put it on my title. A lot of this is going to be centered around to serve and protect. So my first scripture comes from 2 Timothy 2:3-4. It says, "Suffer hardship with me as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life, so that he may please the one who enlisted him as a soldier." My second one is John 6:38. "For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." A lot of you guys don't understand, or maybe a lot of you are not thinking about it this time, that there are a lot of officers that are ordained to be exactly that, police officers. You know, they were ordained to be, to serve and protect. And so it was a calling over their lives. It was something on the inside that made them, you know, that encouraged them to go for their position. It was placed in their heart, it was placed in their spirit that they wanted to stand up, protect, and serve the people. God's people. God's children. That means all of us. So when I say that, I'm saying that these wonderful people, these angels in the outfield, they have no respect of race. They have no respect of person. They're there to do and serve a duty. And that is to serve and protect the people. And so, and unfortunately, when we get, you know, police corruption going on or police brutality going on, these wonderful people, they get forgotten. So I want us to be mindful that with the things that I share here, that every officer don't fit in that category. Just like with the, you know, with the citizens or the people in the community, we don't all fit in the same category. I know that, you know, during this time, you know, that we are trying to get things to shift into a new season so that we all are treated equally, that we often forget, especially, you know, especially when we gather together in such large numbers, that, you know, we have those hard-headed, you know, family members, and I speak of, you know, on both or all races, that we all have in our families, those hard-headed family members that, you know, they're stubborn. They want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, you know, and they do create some challenges. And so we have to keep that in mind too, with this, you know, with everything that we are, with everything that we're going through at this time. And the reason this is so important is because there needs to be a reform or a time for healing on both sides. You know, it's not just a one-sided thing. You can't get, you know, you can't go and get some help for, you know, the officers. Yes, they need help, and because they are in a professional field, yes, yes, yes. You know, definitely, yes. You're in a professional field, you're getting paid for it. So, of course, we want you to be healthy. We want you to be mindful, you know, of your personality or your character at all times. And we definitely want you to be in a place of good health so that you can properly see to the needs of the people, especially of the dysfunctional people that already are hard-headed and they're challenging and they're stubborn even with their families. So we do need you guys as professionals to be bigger than that, you know, because two wrongs don't make a right. And they're not getting paid to act the way or to conduct themselves the way they're conducting themselves. As a matter of fact, probably the payment that they got, unfortunately, was they were paid no attention or not enough attention. And so they started acting out young and they're acting out grown. So I can only apologize for that. But on the other side of it, you are supposed to be, meaning police officers, you're supposed to be professional, you're supposed to be bigger than that. Your mentality is supposed to be higher and greater than that. Your spirit. I mean, there's children that stamp you with the stamp of hero. So you're supposed to be bigger than that. And so, yes, of course, we definitely want to vote yes on making sure that you get the proper love and nurturing that you need so that you can detox whatever it is in a safe program, not in a program that's going to, you know, ambush you when you make a mistake. Not those type of programs. That's not okay neither. Because every behavior that an officer may have to take at certain times should not put everything that he has worked so hard for on the line. Because we do have some of those hard-headed, thick-headed, I'm going to test you type people. So we have to be fair and we have to be considerate on both sides. And and families, I think that fairness starts with each and every last one of us. I do. And when I say families, I'm speaking of families that are associated and connected to police officers. I'm speaking of police officers. I'm speaking of government officials. I'm speaking of wonderful President, my father of the United States of America, Donald Trump. I'm speaking of all of the lovely families in the community that are not directly tied to any police officers. It all starts with us individually being truthful to ourselves. Because we all know who the hard-headed ones are in our family. So when God runs an interception or when God slows them down with their wonderful selves and they get caught up in their mess, don't go blaming anybody else because you knew it already ahead of time that they needed some help. And now that they have gotten themselves caught up or now that they have gotten themselves in trouble, that is the Lord's way of slowing them down. And if they manage to live through it, then you should support them through it because you already knew how they were. So we have to be truthful with ourselves. How you as a sibling know that this individual, this brother of yours, you know this. You know he's beating his girlfriend every darn day or every other day or at least every 3 days. You know this is going on. You know this is part of his personality. This is part of his behavior. So don't act like when the officer said he was resisting arrest, like he just put his wonderful hands behind his back and he just walked and it was okay. It wouldn't have been okay if you, his sister, would have tried to grab his hand because he would have darn near probably, you know, pulled away from you and probably raised his hand to hit you. Because that's part of his character. Don't pretend like if your husband, Mr. or Mrs. Officer, your wife, I'm sorry, Mr. Officer, your wife, and Mrs. Officer, your husband. Don't pretend like they won't go off in a heartbeat. Don't pretend like you go home to a calm, cool, and collected home and they don't put their hands on me. They don't curse at me. They don't punch holes in the walls. They don't smack our children. Don't pretend like you guys are perfect. Do not do it. You guys are human too. And so when you see that attitude and that personality in your home and you know it all so well, why? Because you have bruised ribs. When it comes that now it's out in the public because he's done it to somebody and somebody has caught it, you should be thankful. You should be thankful. He's going to get the help that he needs. He's going to stop hitting on me. He's going to stop hitting on my babies. You should be thankful. That's God's way of trying to get his attention, to slow him down before he do kill someone. But when you sweep it under the rug, nothing gets healed. When you ignore it, nothing is healed. As a matter of fact, what happens is what we're seeing now. People dying in the streets. What we were seeing before all of this COVID-19, suicide rate increasing because somebody was beating somebody, hurting somebody, and they just decided, you know what? I can't take this no more. If I can't get the help I need, I'll just take me. So we have to be honest with ourselves. When God runs an interference and prevents him from taking the life of someone else, or prevents her from taking the life of someone else, this is your opportunity to not lie between your teeth, but get him the help that he needs or she needs so that they don't kill someone else and so that they don't go behind bars for a very long time. So it starts with us, being honest with ourselves and being able to accept the truth. So those are my scriptures. I'm sorry for those of you who missed my scriptures, but I already read my scriptures for today. Let's get right into this.
The Law Enforcement Oath of Honor was adopted by the IACP and agencies around the world as a way for officers to make an outward pledge of their commitments to maintain the integrity of the law enforcement profession. Before officers take the Law Enforcement Oath of Honor, it is vital that they take time to identify and understand what it truly means. Some of the key words in the Law Enforcement Oath of Honor are honor, which means giving one's word as a bond and guarantee. Integrity is a firm adherence to principle in both public and private life. Character means the qualities and standards of behavior that distinguish an individual. The public trust is a duty imposed in faith to those we are sworn to serve. Courage means having the mental and moral strength to venture forth, persevere, and overcome danger, difficulty, and fear. Accountability means that we are responsible and answerable for our actions. Community is the residents and visitors of the jurisdiction in which we serve. All of these pieces come together to depict the incredible responsibility of law enforcement officers as they protect and serve. We now ask you to make a commitment to this vital role of establishing and maintaining the highest level of integrity by taking the Law Enforcement Oath of Honor. I hope you will join these law enforcement executives as they reaffirm their commitments by reciting the Oath of Honor.
On my honor, I will never betray my profession, my integrity, my character,
or the public trust. I will always have the courage
to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the laws of my country,
my community,
and the agency I serve.
Police officers have 4 responsibilities. You would have thought I killed that fly by now. Police officers have 4 responsibilities to enforce laws. I am going to say something in regards to the curfew. When there is no law to enforce because there's a peaceful protest and you put a curfew in place, then you deem necessary and permissible for actions to take place. Protests, peaceful protests, they are legal. And to put a curfew in place so that someone can sit and monitor the time in which they can get out of hand is not okay. So a curfew during a protesting time I don't think that's fair. And like I said, these are my beliefs, my opinions, and everybody's entitled to theirs. I'm just sharing mine. So they enforce laws. They prevent crimes. During the protests, during the peaceful protests, there were no crimes being committed until you put that curfew in place. And then it meant that you had a right to act. Leaders, don't set your citizens up, don't set your communities up for failure. Don't do that. You're setting them up for failure. Because with this many people coming together to protest, it would take extra long for them to get home. So don't set them up for failure. And what I mean by that is don't create a permissible reason for them to ambush the people. I just wanted to go ahead and be a little bit clear with that, because that's what you're doing, especially during a peaceful protest. You're putting in or inserting in a reason, a permissible reason for the officers to ambush the people. I can understand if there's been a history in the past couple of days where things got out of hand from the groups that's been there, then that's understandable. Have some people there, or better yet, maybe in that case, have a curfew. But if you've witnessed that, okay, these people are coming together and they're being peaceful and they're not destroying the cities, there shouldn't be a curfew. It takes time to get through that much of a crowd of people safely. Responding to emergency. Now, with responding to emergency, I watched a video of the elderly man being pushed. And I witnessed how some of the officers, even now, I witnessed how some of the officers, you walk past them like that couldn't have been your dad, that couldn't have been your uncle. It could have been one of the officers that was right in line with you, alongside of you. It could have been their relative, but you walked right past them. So I put on here for responding to emergency. If you hear a scream, you hear a moan, you see someone in pain, you see blood, someone struggling for life, that's an emergency. That's an emergency. Providing support services. I would say reflect on everything I just mentioned. The same thing. And add in there, if you see, individuals struggling between each other, that's, provide that support service in helping them to separate, go to mutual corners, before you get yourselves in trouble. Doesn't require you to, especially if nobody's passed any licks, doesn't require you to rough them up. And 9 times out of 10, if they passed a lick or two and you can't get them to say they want to press charges, then you're going to be back and forth in the system with them. Not you necessarily, but your fellow officer. Because when people are in a situation and they call it love, it's going to be a rotating ordeal. They're going to be in, they're going to be out, they're going to be in, they're going to be out. And the tax money is going to pay for it. So until you get someone that says they want to press charges, then you just say, you know what, get in your wonderful car then. No, you don't get the chance to get back in the car with him, or you don't get a chance to get back in the car with her, whose name is on the vehicle. Sir, your name is on the vehicle? Okay. Would you like to let her drive the car away? Because you're not going to be able to get in the car with her. And she won't be able to get in the car with you. You guys, I witnessed you guys going at each other. So one of you guys are going to have to walk. So which one is walking and which one is, because I'm on the clock. Nobody's pressing charges here? Oh, so sir, are you okay with her having your car? Okay, fine. Go ahead, ma'am. You can go home, please. Sir, you're free to go. You guys be safe. And if you have a couple of minutes to where you can talk to him, talk to him. Dude, I could have arrested you. Talk to him. This display of angerment in public is not okay. It makes people afraid. It makes people nervous, and their children are watching you. You're drawing attention to yourself. So it's not okay. You're blessed today, but if I witness it again on a different day, then I'm going to have to probably take you in. Officers, even military, if you don't mind. And the only reason I said military is because I from my understanding, and I hope I didn't get it wrong, but from my understanding, they were calling for the military to come and basically be at the White House. Let me just ask you, why did you enlist? Why did you sign up to be an officer? Who were you wanting to save? What was your purpose? Are you doing your purpose? Are you hurting or killing the very people you signed up to serve? And if so, under whose authority? Because now you're breaching your honor of oath. When you attack the American citizens, same people that you were supposed to be protecting and serving, you're in breach of your oath. So who's authorizing this? Because you didn't sign up for that. Law enforcement oath of honor. It states, on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public. Actually, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. And I read this a couple of times, and I just want to share with you that I didn't notice anywhere in there where it read, I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions, except fellow officers. That's not what that reads. That's not what, that line is not in the oath. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. Police officers swear to protect and serve. As a matter of fact, one of the lines from another oath that's taken is protect the weak, defenseless, helpless, and fight for the general welfare of all. I could be mistaken, but when you're dealing with a group of protesters and they're not armed and dangerous, they're considered defenseless. They have no weapons. I say this because a man is only as good as his word. At least it used to be. And I want you to hold on to that. Remember that statement. A man is only as good as his word. I am puzzled or crossed because for some reason I believe and I could be mistaken, so someone can please educate me. You can, add it in a comment that if you do break your oath, that is treason, a high crime to betray a sworn oath of office. And that could be for those that are above you that are covering up your sisters and brothers who are showing behavior challenges in the streets. That could be more so reflecting towards them versus you guys. I would like to say me, but that's not the case. So let's examine this a little closer. That treason thing, just think about that. I don't know, double check it. If you want to share the answer with me, you can. Like I said, leave it in a comment. I love to be educated, so educate me. I am not perfect. I'm not the brightest cookie out there. Whew, only you knew. So I love to be educated. Educate me. I would greatly appreciate it, truthfully. So let's look at this a little closer. First of all, we have some amazing angels out there in the outfield, speaking of our police officers and our military, the men that serve under the military. Amazing men and women. These individuals have a passion for the people. They've made a decision and signed up for the positions that they are in, knowing that there's a possibility that they could lose their lives. But they moved forward anyway, and they made this their choice. So you have to know that they're very passionate about it. I was thinking back to why officers would actually go into their field, go into their positions, and it's like to save lives, to help people make better choices. And first of all, yes, you can save lives. You can talk a suicidal person out of killing themselves. You can talk a husband out of killing his wife, a mother from taking the life of her child or herself. So there are many opportunities that police officers see in regards to saving lives. Even if it's pulling someone out of a wrecked vehicle, or when they are that angel in the outfield that slows someone down that can't drive, or that is driving too fast. They can help people make better choices. When you're on the scene and you're out there in the outfield and you are, crossing paths with these wonderful people that enjoy drinking, and unfortunately they're not in their right personality, those are opportunities to get them to make better decisions. Let me see your wallet. They give you their wallet and you're able to, or let me see your ID, and they give you their ID and you're able to see where they belong. Put them in the back of the car, and instead of taking them to jail, have a conversation with them. Take them home and let them know, you could be getting arrested, but you're not doing anything out here. You're just kind of laying in the street, walking down the street, talking loud, flirting with the girls who don't want to be flirted with, in your feelings because somebody rejected you. But you can get yourself into some trouble. So I'm going to take you home tonight, back to your family. I need you to stay there. And I'm going to ask that maybe when you plan on drinking, if you're not going to stay and be a part of the party that you're actually at for the evening, then can you get reach out to a family member, have them come pick you up and get you home safely so you don't get yourself in any trouble. And if you're going to be just drinking by yourself, can you get on the inside somewhere, or maybe out in your front yard, your backyard, and drink in a safe haven, drink in a safe place, and stay there. You don't have to haul them to jail for that, especially if they haven't hurt anybody, they haven't vandalized any buildings. That's unnecessary. You're going to charge them $200, $300, $400, $500 or more, plus time out of their life behind bars. I don't even know how, I don't know anything about alcohol, but for the price of a $5 or $10 drink, sounds like a get-rich scheme to me. Just saying. I'm just saying. Police officers are supposed to be problem solvers, not problem makers. And one of the incidents that stand out in my head is over in Hayward, California. There was a police officers during a protest. There was a man, shirtless man, in his own yard. He's in his own wonderful yard. And during the video, you can see these officers, they stand there for a period of time going back and forth. You're bigger than that. You don't go back and forth with, I don't care if he was drinking. I don't care if he was in his right mind. You don't go back and forth with a petty person. You're supposed to be bigger than that. I don't care if they called you out your name. I don't recall him calling them out their name, but I don't care if they call you out your name. You're still supposed to be bigger than that. Most of the time, Most officers have families too. You have children that you're raising. You have children that you are teaching and encouraging to just walk away. You don't teach your children to hit, to throw tantrums, to beat up somebody, to beat them down. So why would you get on national television and be the epitome of what you teach your children not to be? Because you can't possibly go home and write it off that I'm in uniform. All I'm saying is, during that time, they had plenty of time to walk away from that man. But no, they stood there long enough for it to escalate into this man finally apparently pulled out I want to say a knife. I want to say it was a knife. And then now you get to tase him or shoot. I think they shot him. They didn't kill him. But, you know, it's like, you stay there long enough for that. If your services are needed, then the situation is already going on. It's already going on. So you don't have to sit there and add fire to the, add fuel to the fire or whatever. You don't have to, because your situation is already there that you're having to report there for. And you just go there, you be that problem solver, you go in there and you clear things out or do whatever it is you have to do. But when it's somebody standing on the side of the road and you sit there long enough to go back and forth with them, or somebody at their own home and you're going back and forth with them at their own home, where do you expect them to go? They're at home. Where do you want them to go? Down the street, around the corner? They're at home. Any malicious acts that happen in the home of an individual or on their property, that is wrong. Especially if you have no right to be there in the first place. That means you should have moved on. Not you stay there long enough to create a situation. That's not okay. If you was at home, in the comfort of your own home, or your wife was at home in the comfort of her own home, and I don't care if it wasn't an officer, it was a neighbor that came to your house, knocked at your door, and went off on your wife at her home, snatch her up, drag her out of her home, her space, her safe haven, would that be okay? I can't honestly believe you would tell me, yeah, it would be okay. Even if it was your son, a kid from your son's school that came to his house to fight him. I heard what you said. Kids do that type of stuff. You wouldn't be okay with that. So why do you think that it would be okay for you to go to somebody else's home? You see them sitting in the yard. They have no shirt on. They may have an open container, but they're sitting in the yard, minding their own business. The poor child don't even have company. Just sitting there. And I'm not saying this is how the situation in the Hayward situation went. I've moved from there, so I don't want you to think that this is what that case was. These are just scenarios that I'm sharing. But they're sitting in their home, their address, not bothering nobody. They may have an open container, but they're just chilling. How does that say emergency? How does that call out for a need for law enforcement? There's bigger challenges in the streets. That's not okay. So what happens? Let's see, what did I? So what happens when we get these wonderful psych team members who actually are not on their P's and Q's during the time that officers are coming in and being tested and going through the stages in which they have to go through. What happens when these psych teams allow officers to get through that actually had some baggage that should have been addressed, or should have, maybe sent them to potential clinics or something to get some help, um, and you start to see it in the streets, because you start to see police brutality on people in the community, or police corruption. What happens? What happens when this is now revealed and you have people who protest against it? What do you do when the prosecutors, investigators, government officials choose to protect those individuals, that are doing wrong and that are demonstrating malicious behavior on the people in the community? Over holding that officer or holding officers accountable? So now we have protesters, and now we have officers. Protesters, and let's be a little bit more clear. We have protesters and we have bad officers. Protesters and bad officers. We have the people, and then we have bad officers. And then over here we have the good officers. Protesters, bad officers, good officers. Protesters, bad officers, good officers. Good officers whom families just may be amongst those protesters. Good officers whose children, their wives, their husbands, who they know that they know, my husband would have never did that. My wife wouldn't have never stood for that. They know that they know that they know. And because they know that they know that they know, they're right out there with those protesters. Because they know that their husband or their spouse or that their sister, their brother, their loved one would have never done whatever that corrupt officer did. So you have the people, bad officers, good officers. What do you do when your leaders reject the Constitution and launch an attack on the people? I'm talking about the officers. Let's keep that in mind. We're talking about the officers, the people in office, the people that are providing a service to protect and serve. What do you do when your leaders reject the Constitution, reject your oath, and launch attack on the people, and no longer resemble the agency you signed up for? I mean, all core values and purposes are thrown out the window. The mission to serve and protect have been dismissed. What do you do? Leaders, what do you expect them to do? Like, seriously, you don't look like what they signed up for. What do you expect them to do? They may be a Christian. They may be following a spirit that is much higher than your negative spirit. What do you expect them to do? To their family, they are a man of honor, a woman of honor, one of great value. What do you expect them to do? I thought, you know what? Maybe somebody would say, oh, it's an ethnic thing. So I went and I looked up the Code of Ethics for police officers. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. So even your ethnic code says to launch an attack on the people is not okay. And see, the reason I ask you is because a police officer or a military personnel, first of all, understand, even I know, they would never, never want to divide. But when the agency don't look like what they signed up for, you put them in a compromising position. Because you're asking them to choose between their own values, their own beliefs, and what they know is right over your wrong. And unfortunately, over a paycheck, and that list goes on. The truth of the matter is, if they was to walk with the people, if they was to stand up for the people, they would still be under oath. Legally, they would still be doing their duties respectfully, while serving the people of the USA. The one who is out of uniform is the one who is launching an attack on the people, the one who is brutally beating and killing the people in the community. Those are the ones who are out of uniform. Those are the ones who don't look like they're supposed to look according to the character of a police officer, according to the character of government officials. This is not okay. This is not okay to have officers in a place or in a position where you know they signed up for one thing, and then here it is, you have them in the middle of another thing because you have corrupt police officers that you are trying to protect, that you're trying to cover up for, and now the people are upset because they see no justice, and now you have these good officers who want to do the right thing, who goes to work every day to do the right thing, who prays that they stay in a right character even when they're on their jobs each and every day. And now you have them in this mess. Leaders, because your hot-headed, wonderful officer made a mistake. And this time, he or she got caught. See, my God is like that. My God will give you pass after pass after pass, because what you don't know is if they got caught this time, you don't know how many other times they got away with it. But evidently, somebody was praying for their family member, or that person that they got a hold to was praying, and the Lord said, not this one. I forgave you on the last one. I gave you a pass on the second one, and this happened on the third one. But this one here, not this one. And he positions people in the right places to take pictures, position people in the right places to be witnesses. And then you at your wonderful selves, you go and cover it up, or try to cover it up, and you put your whole department in compromising situations. Because you put your whole community in a compromising situation. Because where your community would rather be living in peace versus having to be out in the streets protesting for you to do the right thing, they would rather be knowing that they are living a life where you're doing the right thing and they're living in peace and the system is just the way it's supposed to be. But no, instead, you protect the minority, those few that made a choice to do what they did, and you jeopardize the integrity of your whole freaking department, of the whole government system. I'm so sick of this lie. That's not okay. That's not okay. You really should reconsider. You shouldn't even hurt your officers that way. You don't know how many officers are just ripped from even having to go out there and stand against their own people, their own neighbors, probably some of their own children, their children friends. Oh, because you wouldn't do what you were supposed to do. Just like those officers who are responsible for those malicious behaviors, they had a choice. You had a choice. And all you had to do was make the right one. I would rather have a small team of good guys than a large team of a combination of corrupt officers and good officers. Because soon enough, those corrupt officers, they're going to do so much until it catches up. And it's going to make everybody look bad. And that's exactly what we're dealing with now. So no, it is not okay to require a man or a woman who is under oath to stand against the people that they're supposed to be serving. If they signed up to protect and serve the people, it is not okay. If they expected to go to work, if that's the reason they woke up in the morning was to protect and serve those people, it is not okay to have them to stand against the people. They made a choice to be officers, to be in the military for their own personal reasons. And if the people was the reason, if standing up for their country was the reason, then your agenda should not trump that. Especially not for the sake of wrongdoers. Now, I do want to say that the psych team is not fully responsible for all police corruption, because some of these officers, they suffer from on-the-job PTSD And this is just my belief. You know, it's hard to go through, especially if you know, if you truly do have a heart for the people, and you have to one day, you know, because some hard-headed, wonderful person wants to challenge you, and you find yourself having to go back and forth with them because they launched an attack on you, then yeah, that makes you feel some kind of way. And it hurts your heart because, dude, I didn't even want to, man, I didn't want to have to even go through that. You know, and it makes you feel some kind of way. And heaven forbid, if, you know, they shoot or they have a gun or a weapon or whatever, and it causes them to have to actually, you know, have force in that situation or protect themselves in that situation, that stuff doesn't go away. It kind of sticks with you when you're alone, when you're home after you've clocked out, when you're sitting in your car waiting for the next call to come through. So it's not all on the psych team. It's a part of on the job, PTSD. And I believe that, you know me, I have to give what I feel like would be a solution for it. And I believe that, you know, in cases like these, that officers should be able to, you know, if an officer, when they come back in the office, you witness that they've had a, you know, an unbelievable moment in the streets, you know, or I should say a believable moment. There's everything that can happen out there. But they're in need of some detox. And so they should have a 6 months to a year program that they can go to detox. And like I said, to get some nurturing, to get some love, to get some emotional healing. And it should be optional. It should be, you know, optional for the family to go with them. I would say it'd be nice if the family could go to support their loved one and just really make sure that he's okay or she's okay. It doesn't mean, you know, oh, pull them off of, you know, out of their position, you know, and you may have to not pull them out of their position, but, you know, have them to do light duty, depending on how severe it was. Just keep them around the office so the office, you know, the department can show them some love, some nurturing, you know, and give them a chance to get a renewed spirit. You know, take a break from it. Go detox, you know, through a little program or what have you. And come back, whew, okay, got it off my chest, feel good, I got this, where they can let it go. And it won't be still so riled up in them until they walk out of the office and somebody walks up on them and they attack them. Officers are human too. And although they get stamped with this, you know, seal of Superman, they have feelings, they have emotions, they have spirit, and it gets broken. And sometimes they just need a timeout. And it shouldn't be at the expense of their paycheck, because they didn't check out to go through what they went through. So they shouldn't have to check out to go get the healing and the nurturing that they need. And they shouldn't have to feel like it's a problem or walk on eggshells to come and say, hey, I need a breather. I need to go talk to, you know, whoever the person is that's going to help them get mentally and spiritually back on track. They shouldn't have to feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to write this down. No, you don't get to write anything down. They came to you voluntarily and said they needed the help. They needed to clear their mind. You don't get to write it down like they did something wrong. You like it's a reprimand. No, it's not a reprimand. It's a nurturing moment. It's what you do, Mother Goose. Or Father, what is it? Okay, we'll call him Father Nurturing. There's a, never mind. Anyway, moving on. So anyway, so they need to go to a detox program. And if they're willing to come forward and they're willing to share with you that this is something that they need, this is not something for you to cross-examine them about. You don't get to know the details of it. All you need to know, and it could be something at home. My gosh, they're out of the house for so many hours. It could be something at home. Even if it's something at home, you still give them a moment to go and get the nurturing and the support that they need and the detoxing that they need, because it's toxic. Whatever it is, it's toxic. I don't care if it is a home situation. I don't care if it's a school situation where their child got beat up or their child is not doing well in school or whatever. It's toxic. And it's bothering them. Some parents genuinely care if their child do good in school. And so when they find out their child is not doing good in school, then they want to get to the bottom of it. They want to know what can they do to help. They want to know what the challenge is. And children these days are programmed with an explosion button where they'll go off at any time. And sometimes when they do that, they trigger something in their parents that makes them, feel some kind of way. And so they do need to detox. And so when they come to you and they say they need to detox, then you let them go detox. You support them. You don't have to know their business only so you can use it up in a write-up or whatever later. No, you don't get to use it in a write-up. It's none of your business. What's your business and what's your concern is the fact that they need it. And to make sure that they get it. So that they're safe, and so that the people in the community is safe, and so that their families are safe when they return home to them. My brother's keeper. I touched on this already. But apparently, when I turned on the TV today, there was officers in regards to the elderly man being pushed. When the officer said he was not guilty, there was officers standing outside and they was cheering. All because you co-sign for a situation doesn't make it right. I don't care how many number of people you get to stand behind you in regards to it. What's wrong is wrong. So I don't know how you can manage to convince yourselves that what you're looking at, I don't think you even convinced yourself of that what you were looking at wasn't wrong. I think that you convinced yourself, well, if we have some people to say that, no, look the other way, then, it's going to be okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. It was wrong. Even if it's just one person, it's still wrong. Even if it increases to 10, officers or individuals standing behind them, it was still wrong. If it goes up to 50, it was still wrong. What's wrong is wrong is wrong. So be careful what you co-sign for. Why would you co-sign for that? Because, and the reason I ask that is, so if you're going to co-sign for it, are you willing to go to jail with him? Are you going to sit there in the cell with him? That's what co-signers do. They right there in it with you. If not, then encourage him to do the right thing. Yeah, stand outside the jail, stand outside the police department when he comes out. Yes. Say, dude, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? Do you need to go clear your head? Do you need the, dude, I'm going to see you through this. You're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Stay in his corner. But you don't co-sign for wrong unless you were part of that negative team in the first place. You were part of the challenges within the department in the first place. Because that's who your character is. You know, I had wrote this out before I went back and looked at the video again. I wrote out, instead of supporting the wrongdoer to do better, you're co-signing for their malicious act. This is the first step to approving police brutality. This is the first step to approving police brutality. And then I said, do I believe this is a person? I mean, this is do I believe this is a prison matter for a half of a life offense or anything like that? Now, this is before I seen the blood. I said, no, I didn't. Do I think you need a timeout and to be able to clear your mind and check in with some type of nurturing program or whatever and get some proper encouragement from your department? Yes. Will it include some jail time? Yes. Because let me tell you about jail time. Jail time allows for an individual to go in a dark place, in a quiet space, and think back about what they have done and to actually act right about themselves and have some remorse about their actions. It's a time of healing, you know, for that brokenness that caused them to act out in the first place to get them exactly where they are. So do I think that there should be some timeout time? Yes. And so I went on to say, will there be jail time? Yes. Will there be a fine? Yes. And I said, well, with the fine, it will come out of the paycheck and it will go directly to the victim. Yeah, because I don't understand why you paying fines and the victims, the very people that you have abused, they're not getting any type of compensation for it, but this money is going where? It should go to the family. It should go to that victim. So, yes, there will be a fine, and it will come out of your paycheck. The city won't pay for it. You'll pay for it. And it'll go to the victim. Why? Because next time you'll think twice about it. Because if it hits you hard enough to where you feel it, then you'll be like, dude, you're not worth my paycheck. And you'll treat them differently. Excuse me. Zara. Zara. Say yes. I know you hear me. Maybe not. Okay. Haas, you're going to have to wait. Okay, so, but yeah, if it hits you hard enough, then you'll feel it and you'll think twice about the individual in which you are, or think twice about harming another individual in the future. So I do think it should come directly from your paycheck. That should not come from the city or the state. It should come from you. Now let's go back to it the way it actually happened. Because just like I said, this was when I looked at it a couple of times, but I didn't see the blood. Now, first of all, you have a couple of things that took place here. I've seen this video twice. I want you guys, I mean, more than twice, I'm sorry, but I've seen it 2 different ways. And I want you guys to go back and I want you to see it the other way that I've seen it. When I seen it initially, and I seen the old man, you know, get knocked down or what have you, pushed and fell to the ground. And I seen the officers arrest the man. Now, before the news person actually said it was a protester, I thought that the officer looked at the elderly man and seeing that the elderly man was bleeding, and they actually arrested the officer. And so when I saw that, I thought, you know what, that's exactly right. That's what they should have done. But then when I looked at it again, I realized they arrested the protester. You arrested the protester because he had a camera to catch the situation on camera that he was witnessing to. You're in the wrong. That's not okay. That's not okay. You don't get to harass the witnesses. That's not okay. See, if the situation was played out the way it was supposed to have been played out, then you would be saying like like a good officer. It's okay. You know what? It's okay for you to record, but just step back, step back in a safe place. Keep a safe distance and let me do my job because I may need that recording. And you let them do what they do because it's okay. It's not against the law for them to record. It is against the law for you to harass them and to arrest them for no reason. So you just ask them to keep a safe distance and you do your job correctly. See, if you're doing your job correctly, there's no threat. There's no threat, there's no concern. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. But you don't go and quickly realize there's a cameraman and snatch them up, put handcuffs on them. Because I'm going to tell you exactly what that looks like. That looks like you are harassing the witness so that you can get your hands on the evidence. Because what happens when you arrest them and you book them, you take them in, you get to confiscate all of the evidence. You get to confiscate the camera and everything. And the chances are they may not get it back in the same condition that it was in. They may not even get it back. And I know that because I have a brother who was just taken off the streets for no reason. And he didn't get his personal belongings back. Because the officer shared with him that he wanted it for his own collection. Who does that? That's not okay. But it happens. So, no, that's not okay for you to arrest individuals that are standby, that unfortunately have to police the police because of the type of situation we're in right now. Yeah, we have citizens that are paying officers to police the city, and then they have to also take their time out to police the polices. Because of the lack of trust. The other thing is, when I looked at that video and, the man got pushed and everything, what got to me was the fact that we have all this stuff that's going on right now. We're in the middle of this protest for justice right now about police brutality, police corruption, everything. And you guys, not one, not two, not three. I mean, we're talking about several officers. This man is down on the ground, bleeding. Do you know that each and every last one of you officers that passed him up dehumanized him? You treated him like his life meant nothing. Did that not look like that was an example of an emergency? The man laying there, even if he didn't have blood coming from his head, even if he was just laying there and he looked like he was halfway lifeless, that was an emergency. Do you guys realize how many of you guys just walked right past him? It's like you guys stood in unity for dehumanization. That could have been your daddy, your brother, your grandfather, And I know probably someone facetiously is sitting there saying, but it wasn't. Keep living. Keep living. Because unfortunately, our actions have a way of affecting our loved ones. And that's just the truth. You could at least have one to stop and make sure that he was okay. And you know, for the person that pushed him, it would have looked like you had some type of remorse about your action. If once he hit the ground, you went down to help him. Oh, sir, you okay? Sir, you can't be walking. And if he was okay, after you helped him up and showed the protesters that he's up, he's okay, and didn't share with him, educate him, sir, you can't be walking up on the officers, okay? I didn't mean to push you, but I'm glad you're okay. But because you pushed him and you seen him laying there and you looked back, so you probably even seen him bleeding, you dehumanized them. Some wife or some grandchildren, maybe his children, saw that video and you ripped their hearts apart. All of you officers ripped their hearts apart because nobody cared enough to just stop, put something under his head, anything. That is an example, the epitome of what the people are fighting for. They're fighting against it. They're fighting against it. They said this no more, no more, no more, no more. This is an example of it. It's not just the killing, it's the beating too. It's all of it. It's wrong. You're dehumanizing people. You're treating them like they're a chair, not even an animal. I bet you show more compassion towards your wounded canines that you work with than you do. It's so important to find out who these people are, who these officers are, because they are making you good guys look real bad. And then I went on to say, I don't even want to do any more of this. That was some of my solution for it, but then it ended up, like I said, after I watched it again, I seen that the man was bleeding and they still continued to walk on. It kind of changed everything that I was that I felt in regards to the situation, because then it became a different situation. We talked about arresting the witness, tampering with evidence. We talked about that. Now, let's move on to Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but hard words stir up anger. This is so important. I'm going to read this again. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read it 2 times. And the reason, because I want you guys to really, really hear this. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but hard words stir up anger. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but hard words stir up anger. In the Bible, in Genesis, in the beginning, all you have is a word. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a Christian. This is my Bible. But in my Bible, in Genesis, all you have is a word. As a matter of fact, I know somebody probably said, oh my gosh, you pulled out the Bible. I sure did. It's my go-to. So in Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, for those of you that are not familiar with it, just a little. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, this is like when there was nothing there. And God said, God spoke a word. Let there be light. And there was light. All he had to do was say it. There is power in your words. It goes on down to verse 6, where he spoke and the waters separated. It goes on down to verse 9, and God said. So all he had to do was speak a word. And God said, let the waters under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. He spoke to the waters, and the waters shifted and made way for the ground to be seen. With his words, all he did was use his words. Not a wand. He didn't have any type of tool. His words. Words have power. And I could keep going because there's so many other times that in Genesis he spoke and it happened, like he spoke. And God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seeds in it. And we get trees, we got fruit, vegetables. Speaking a word, the authority of a word, the power of a word. The reason this is so important is because our Father in heaven, he gave us that same power with our words, where we can speak and our words have power. We can speak over situations in our lives. We can speak negative situations into our lives. So you got to be careful what you say. You got to be careful what you give life to. You want a situation in your life to be removed, and you say, all you got to do is speak it. We inherit that from our Father in heaven. If you don't believe me, try it. Why is this so important? But before I share with you why it's so important, I also want you to know that you can speak against brokenness in your life. You can speak healing into your life. You can speak healing into your children. You can speak brokenness out of your children, out of your wife, out of your husband, out of your situation. You have a voice of authority, and it was given to you by your Father in heaven. Why? Why do I mention it? I've had this sticky right here on my table for a minute, for a couple of days. I I turned on the TV for a moment. It's always a moment. I can't take a whole lot of it, because when you're getting messages from the Lord, it's like, ooh, it's so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. And then I don't want to confuse my own personals, with what I'm receiving. And I don't want to have how I'm feeling tainted by what I'm seeing. And so it's generally just like only a minute. It's not very long at all. And 9 times out of 10, what I get a glimpse of, the Lord has already gave me a message or something to share in regards to it. But I get so nervous doing this stuff, so it takes me a couple of days to actually come on and share it. But anyway, the reason I'm sharing this is because I've had this sticker on my table for a minute. And the reason I share that your words have power is because I seen across the TV and heard a group of wonderful people chanting, "Save a life, kill a cop. Save a life, kill a cop." Save a life. That hurts so bad. Kill a cop. First, I want to remind you that we have angels in the outfield. We have good cops in the outfield that would not hurt you, harm you, and that would protect you. Save a life, kill a cop. Your words have power. Your words have power that comes back and affects you. Your words have power that will come back and haunt you, because your words have power that will come back and affect your children, affect your family, your loved ones. Save a life, kill a cop. If I was y'all, I would so quickly go get some signs and poster boards made. I changed my mind. Don't kill a cop, save a cop. Because let me give you a image of what that looks like. Okay? Save a life, kill a cop. That means that every cop, because you haven't personalized the cop, you haven't been specific with your words. Cops, that's such a big bracket. Save a life, kill a cop. Why wouldn't I be scared? If you basically chanted fear into me. I know I said me speaking like I was a cop, but you basically chanted the fear. You built the fear. You set up the failure. You set yourself up for failure. You set your kids up for failure. You set your mothers, your fathers up for failure. Save a life, kill a cop. Why wouldn't they be scared? They're human. Why wouldn't they be scared? They have every right to be. When you have people, upset, broken, oppressed people who are chanting, save a life, kill a cop. I'm going back to the leaders with this, with your wonderful selves. This is because you decided not to do the right thing. You decided not to put them in jail. You decided to cover it up. Because if they were in jail, if it wasn't covered, then these wonderful people would not be chanting. I don't even want to say it no more. They wouldn't have their anger. And these cops, the good cops, wouldn't be living in fear. And your wonderful bad cops wouldn't be sitting there with their I wish they would, waiting for another good time. And not necessarily for anything to actually have to happen for them to have it. So yes, respect the territory. I noticed in the video where the elderly man got pushed that all the officers were in uniform. And I don't mean like in uniform as in clothing, like they were in uniform in their togetherness. And they was marching or walking together away from the people, could very well have been walking around the people, which meant that you had all of the parking lot, the streets. I didn't see exactly where the protest was taking, the courtyard. You had all that area to yourselves. See, generally, I noticed that when a couple of days ago, when I looked, the police officers were kind of in the middle of it too, you know, spread it out in the middle, but they were all together, uniform in their own space, in their own territory. It doesn't make it right what happened. But I am saying respect territory. Just like you as individuals don't care to have the police officer coming and approaching you because you're scared, they're scared too. And so just like with you, your mechanisms of fear kicks in, theirs do too. They don't know what you're gonna do. Why are you walking up on them? I know they said, oh, I think it was 71. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. 16 years old, let's say. Well, he's a 16-year-old kid, and, he walked up on, hold up, pause. There's some 16-year-old kids with guns. So let's respect the territory. If you need to, especially during this sensitive time, if you need to approach a cop because of a situation, first of all, if it's not an important situation with that many people out there and about, then don't approach a cop. And if it's not a required necessity or an required necessary officers for you to be approaching anyone, if there's nothing wrong going on, there's nothing negative going on, don't approach the people. There's too many personalities out there. There's too much potential for fear. So respect the territories. There's a lot of brokenness that's going on, and so we need the distance. We need the space. If it's important and you need to yell out to an officer, hey, can I speak to you for a moment? Then make sure you have his attention. And if he permissions you to come closer, then you had his permission to come closer. And officers, if you need to speak to someone, call out to them. Yeah, if it's something they're doing wrong and they take off, I'm sorry, but you guys went to, agility training and everything. You're supposed to be able to run a couple of miles. So, you're just going to have to get ready to run. You're going to get your exercise in today. Write it off as a challenge and see if you can catch them. But your gun or your taser shouldn't be the first thing that comes out. Put your legs to work. You are required to be physically fit for your position for a reason. But call out to him, he or she. Get their attention, and you'll know if you have it. Because either they're going to stay there and they're going to answer you while you walk over to them, or they meet you halfway, or they don't already know they was in the wrong and they're going to take off. And so you just got to be ready to run for a moment. Prayfully you catch them. Prayfully you're in better shape than they are in. But at least you guys make the attempt to respect each other's territories. We will never know why that wonderful elderly man decided to in the middle of that protest and in the middle of all those officers approach that officer. What the officer didn't make it right, how the officers, conducted themselves even after the fact of seeing the man being pushed to the ground. Like I said, I would have, I'm so sorry to say it, but it's just my truth. And no, I'm not sorry to say it because it's just my truth. When the man hit the ground, especially when it was recognized that the man was bleeding, officers that were around that seen that that man was bleeding and knew that they knew who was responsible, they should have immediately cuffed him. I know he's family, he was in the wrong, but still he should have been cuffed and put in a car. And there shouldn't have been any argument, any back and forth about it from him. I already knew. You pushed him, he's bleeding, cuffs. And you could even had an officer to go ahead and take him to the department. Especially with that many officers on site. That would have been the right thing to do. Because you witnessed it. But again, there's a lot of brokenness that's out there. And there's a lot of trust issues. And because there's a lot of trust issues, where the police officers don't trust the people don't trust the police officers, we need to respect the territory. Get permission to come closer. Unless there's absolutely something wrong going on. In order to close that gap of distance, there need to be some programs or events, not programs, but events in the community for police officers and people, so that the people get a chance to meet their fellow officers, not just meet them, but learn them by name. And so the officers can learn their people by name. And the people who show up are going to be the people who really want to be known, and people who really want this to stop. They're going to show up. I want to know you. I want to know who you are. I want to know your family. I want you to know my family. So if little Jim get in trouble, then you can bring little Jim home. You ain't got to shoot him. You can pull him by his wonderful ear and be like, dude, I know your mama. Come on. I don't even have to take you in because I know your mama's going to get your in. Then you just put him in the car and bring him to his family. So there's going to have to be some type of togetherness for the people and the officers in the community, because they have to rebuild their trust. And this can't be a 1 or 2 or 3 time thing. This needs to be an ongoing thing, because it's hard to rebuild trust. It's really hard to rebuild trust. And these families need to feel safe. They need to know that their children are safe. These officers need to feel safe. Their children go to school with you. They want to know that their children are going to be safe. I would, if I was in a position of authority, I was a leader, and I seen some of the faces of the officers that was out there chanting when they seen what had happened to the elderly man, and witnessed blood rushing from his head. I would have, in a place of leadership, I would have loved to hear their voices. I would have loved to, be able to call them in and to try and understand, what were they chanting for? Like, what were you cheering for? Tell me. And I don't mean lashing them out. I mean just asking, because they may have, a different view about it. that may be helpful to the officer's case. So find out, why was you cheering? Why would you condone what you've seen? Why would you approve what you've seen? So, like I said, they may have information or they may have seen it a different way or something. I mean, we know what we saw. But they may have a certain, feeling about it or what have you, and it may be helpful to his case. Or you may get an earful and learn that, yeah, this is probably where my challenges are coming from in my department. So you should call them in and see. Because you probably are aware that there's some corruption that's going on in your department and you just can't pinpoint it. But when you see a group of people cheering for a situation like that, you have to be curious. What exactly are you cheering for? What exactly is on your mind? And it can't possibly be, cheering for the fact that, oh, he's out of jail, because the situation isn't over. He still have to deal with it. And you can't say, oh, because we were a support system. As a support system, if you're doing the right thing, you should have been quiet and you should have just been waiting there. And you should have been standing there in a position of respect, but also a position of concern, not a position of celebration. There's nothing to celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate, but I'm still here for you. When he walked out that door, it should have been some officers. It should have been a group of officers, quiet. And all he seen was uniforms. And he felt the love. He felt the support. He didn't feel alone, but he knew that he was wrong. Not a bunch of cheering officers like they're stamping it with approval. Because that wasn't an approval situation. That's not a situation that you co-sign for. So as a leader of the department, I would call them in and I would want to know, what were you cheering for? Did I miss something? Talk to me. And if you get answers that makes you feel some kind of way, then maybe you should be looking further into the situation or keeping your eye and monitoring them, or going back and pulling some files and looking and seeing how many, complaints do you have on file. Just saying. You guys were almost finished. Some of you are dehumanizing even your loved ones, whether it be your children, whether it be your spouses. And you actually have charges against you. Or you have complaints. Or the department is aware that you have acted out on your family, your loved ones. They're clearly aware of it. They know it's a part of your character. Leaders, if this is the case, how can an officer abuse his own loved ones and then go out in the streets with a gun and a badge and you think he wouldn't do it to others? You need to, that situation right there, that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. Like I said, even if it's happening in the home, it still needs to be addressed. There needs to be a stamp over when some type of program has been completed that is supposed to be a rehabilitating program or a nurturing program or whatever for that individual. Once it's completed, it needs to be a stamp. When it happens again, he needs to be out because it's not okay. And you're setting your community up for failure. You're setting your community up again to watch another individual being mistreated, abused, or killed in the streets, because here it is, you have an officer with a history that you totally ignored. We're not going to put it on paper. We'll wait till they catch it on the television. We'll wait till they catch it on the phones, on their own personal cameras, and then we'll just have to deal with it. What if it was your mama? What if it was your daddy, your sister, your brother? I cannot stress that enough. What if it was your loved one? Better yet, do you realize that you are putting your loved ones in some challenging places? Because those same officers, they don't know all of your relatives. They don't know your friends. And they go out there and they misbehave on the neck, the throat, the back, the arm, or take a life of someone that you love, that's precious to you. What do you say then? Oops, that was your mama. Oops, that was your daddy. It's okay. Oops, that was my son. It's no longer oops then, right? It's no longer, you know what, that's okay. I'll pull the evidence and I'll cover it up and I'll do what I have to do. And we'll lie, or we'll threaten them. We'll threaten the family. We'll go and dig up dirt on the family, see what kind of history they have. If they'll dehumanize their own loved ones in their homes, and you know that they will, because I'm pretty sure the wives have called, the husbands have called, or fellow officers have shared, he beat up Sally again. What do? Pull them in your office and say, you got to stop this. Really? You got to stop this. You don't think that person in their home is scared for their lives? You don't think that person in their home wish they could get away, but he's an officer of the law? And you're permissioning him, or you're permissioning her to further abuse them, and you're covering it up. Why? Because they say what? Come on, dude, if it was your wife, man, I wouldn't get involved. The devil is a lie. No, I would get involved. If I knew and I was a leader, I would get involved. I would get so involved, I probably want to have you blanked. Are you kidding me? Why would your grown tail as a man put your hands on a woman? Whether she's out in the streets, I've seen some horrible things happen to young ladies. Young ladies who pretty much was a $105 in weight against 250, 300-pound officers. Young ladies who had no weapons. Punching her, punching her, punching her. Can you imagine having that done to a wife at home, and then you okay it by turning the cheek, and you allow him to go into the streets and do the same thing to our babies? You guys, this is crazy. This is not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Again, we have some bad officers and some good officers. But we got to find a way to flush out these bad officers and get them off the streets. Get them off the streets. It's necessary. Because they're causing the whole department to look bad. They're causing the whole justice system to look bad. And they're ruining our communities. And they're probably ruining their families. Because they're raising angry children. Children that are mad, that are broken. Because they're not getting the proper nurture they should get because their fathers are broken. So it's so important that we give the officers the support and the nurturing that they need through programs when they need it. But for those that just, it's too late for them as an officer, then you got to get them off the street. Not too late for you as a person. It's not too late for you as a person. It's never too late for you as a person. As long as the Lord gives you the breath to breathe and wake you up in the morning, you can always start anew. So it's never too late for you as a person. But when you have a history, a documented history of hurting other people, then it's too late for you as an officer. It's too late. Because you've already heard it for too many. And as an officer of the law, it should have never been okay. My last thing is when you get citizens that come in and they come in and they're all bloody and they're bleeding everywhere, look like they've been really badly beaten, I think that's a flag. And I think that during those times, that within 24 hours time period, that the family should have the opportunity to come down, and a report should be made in the presence of their family, and it should be recorded. So it should be a written report and a recorded report, and a copy should be kept with the police department, and a copy should be sent home with the family. If that individual is in such a poor condition, fragile condition, that the family, let me back up. And after the family is given a report, the family should be required to sign off on a wellness check statement saying that they had the opportunity to make sure that their loved one was okay. And you keep a copy and they keep a copy. But if that family member refused to sign because they're looking at their loved one and their eyes hanging out and ribs are broken and they're not in the best shape and they want to have them medically evaluated, then I believe that you should have an officer to escort them to the hospital to be examined. And when the doctor released them back into your care, he says they're okay to leave. At that time, you should have the family to sign the wellness check statement and also to document the fact that yes, their loved one had the opportunity to be medically examined, and then you take them back to jail and process them. That's just how I feel about that. Just to make sure that everything is being done correctly and fairly. But when you get individuals that come in there and they're swollen everywhere and they're black and blue everywhere and there's blood everywhere, it shouldn't be, oh, just take a picture here, take a picture there, and off to jail they go. because you should be concerned about why did it have to take all of this. And the reason for being is because, as I said, as I shared in one of my other videos, they're citizens, innocent citizens. They're innocent citizens until, excuse me, until proven guilty. They still have their rights. They have not went before a judge. And so, even if they had went before a judge, you should still be concerned about their well-being because they're in you guys' care. And their families should definitely be concerned about their well-beings. Their well-being. But anyway, but I told you guys I wasn't perfect. Anyway, but so yes, I do believe that if they are in a bad condition or a medically concerned condition, that they should be taken to the hospital. And that means that you have, hopefully you guys can figure out some type of program or get some type of understanding that if you guys bring in, have to bring in an individual, that you guys go ahead and be seen so you can get him in there, get him evaluated, and get him out. When he gets evaluated with his loved one there as well. The loved one gets a copy of the medical paperwork as well. And like I said, when the doctor approves for him to leave, say he's good to leave, then you go ahead and you have them to sign off on the wellness check statement and to sign off that he did get medical attention if he needed it. And you go ahead and you take him back to booking and processing. I think that that's fair. But like I said, that's my opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinions. You guys, please, please, please remember that the officers are human. They have feelings too. Their lives matter. Just as your lives matter too. For you leaders, please think about the situation that you're putting your officers in. Those officers that was born and ordained in their lives to be peace officers, and that are wanting to be exactly that, peace officers. They shouldn't have to choose whether or not they want to serve the people. That's what they signed up for, is to serve and protect the people. All you have to do is do the right thing and get the wrong people out of uniforms and behind bars. And then the people will be fine. And your good officers will be fine. And your streets will be good. And you can be proud. Because when your community is in chaos, you should be disappointed because you should feel like a failure. Because justice is in your hands. Peace is in your hands. You have the authority. You have control. And when it's not, that means you let something get out of control. So yes, you have to fix it. So were you dismissed and kicked the oath out the window along with the protect and serve the people? Set aside your mission statements. You had to go back and pick it up. Read it a couple of times. Get a highlighter. And as you read it, highlight the things you are doing correctly. And if you get to the bottom and you haven't highlighted everything on there, then that means there's something that you need to pay closer attention to. You guys, those of you that that decided to take time of your busy day to listen I really do appreciate you guys. And I really do hope that you guys will share the video and get it around to as many people as you can, many officers as you can. And I just hope that I said something that will, help bring about peace and justice in our communities. I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Talking for Tomorrow TFT. I do welcome you guys to go and see it. Probably, if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen pretty much all of them. If you haven't been following me for a while, then there are plenty of videos on there to check out and look at. I do have other things that have been placed on my heart to talk about. We're not talking about them tonight, trust. But I do have other things that was placed on my heart to talk about. And like I said, I get so nervous when I'm, about to do these things. I'm not a camera person at all. And so, but just pray for me, and I'll pray for you. Love you guys. God bless.